Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you're all doing well this fine Thursday. It's a little bit chilly here in the north of England today. It seems to have forgotten that it's spring. But anyway, excuse me, back with Karen Reid today and the complete farce that is Dr. Judson Welcher. Honestly, I had a headache after listening to him. I had a headache. He can't answer a simple question. I don't know whether this guy is so arrogant and narcissistic that he thinks he can get away with all of this nonsense, or he's just completely stupid. I don't know which it is. I think it's the former, honestly. But hey, how do I know? So Robert Alessi said that we are currently about halfway through cross-examination, but Judge Bev wants to hurry him along. She wants to hurry him along. So she's hoping to get finished by 1:30 because they've got to leave early today. A juror has got a prior appointment that the court has said she can attend. So they're finishing court early. Bev, any excuse to finish early. So we're going latest 1:30 today. So by the time they start late, by the time they have a massive break, I don't think we're going to get much testimony today, honestly. But she's hurrying him along. He's condescending. He is absolute. I've no words. No words. And the money, it came out, right at the beginning of cross-examination. Bob Alessi asked him about how much Aperture are being paid. And at first he said $44,000. And I thought, okay, that's probably what I would expect, for two people, because you got to include the sham that is Shannon Burgess as well. And then it came out they'd paid another 340,000, 350,000. It was a ridiculous amount of money. So close to 400k has been spent on Aperture. How much is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts prepared to pay to prosecute Karen Reid? They're going all out for this woman, and it's like she's the most dangerous serial killer that's ever lived. They're absolutely desperate to prosecute her. It runs into the millions. If you're a citizen in Massachusetts, how do you feel about your tax dollars being spent in this way? Like Aperture have been paid more than Hank Brennan. Like Hank Brennan's on something like 250k or something to take this case. He's probably billing more hours as we speak, but Aperture and Hank together, you're heading towards $1 million. You're heading towards it by the time, all's said and done. Absolutely insane. Is tomorrow a full day? I don't know. Today's a half day. Well, it won't be even that. And then Fridays, Bev likes to finish early. Bev likes to finish early on a Friday. Time for happy hour and all that. But I don't know. Maybe if they're a half day today, maybe they'll go full day tomorrow. I don't know the answer to that. But okay. See who's in the chat. And then we're going to play some clips. And honestly, after the court finished last night, I went and listened to Trooper Paul's testimony from Trial 1. And although he got absolutely crushed under cross-examination, I mean, look, Alan Jackson crushed him The poor guy was completely and utterly annihilated. But the direct examination, right, made way more sense than what this guy is talking about. And it's the same data. It's exactly the same data. So one of the things that they got into after the jury left, which I'm going to play first actually, is we don't really know what's gone down because they had a lot of sidebars, and then this video just popped up. So not sure particularly specifically what it's about, but it seems to be about the materials that Welcher has been using. The stuff that's in his report is copied from various places. One of them is Trooper Paul's report. So this guy or this company has been paid close to $400,000, and it's the same data that Trooper Paul presented in trial 1. Like, Trooper Paul might as well have just come and done his testimony again and saved the Commonwealth $400,000. Again, if you're a taxpayer in Massachusetts, how do you feel about your tax dollars being spent in this way? I don't think you've got any, chance to get any of your money back. I don't think it works like that. But still, how do you feel about it? I'd be absolutely and utterly fuming. Fuming. This is a colossal waste of money. Colossal. And we don't know the half of it. We really don't. We don't know the half of it. But anyway, let's see who's in the house. We got Melissa. We got Down Under with Love. We got Thunderhorse. We got Professor in Mathematics and Science. We got Blissful. Yeah, you finally caught alive. Woo-woo. We got Angie Baby, Mel. We got Two Arctic Wolves. We got CW. We got Wendy. We got Sarah, Lisa, Little Bear, Elflowers, Twisted. We got Bexalicious. We got, let's have a look. We got Emmy. We got Patrice. We got Just Steph. Are we nearly at the bottom? I think I might be able to get to the bottom. We got Karen. We got The Quiet Observer. Betsy. Amy. And we got Crimebulance. Yay. We're down at the bottom of the chat. Okay, I'm going to play the first and the last. So, judges ruling from the day before, and I think it was as good as it was going to get. I think probably the defense probably saw it as a win. That it's as good as it gets. It's as good as it gets with Bev, so that's fine. And then I'm going to play the Vodia at the end, and then we'll get into how this guy made Trooper Paul look good. And yes, I'm going to play a little bit of Trooper Paul as well as a comparison. Okay. All right, this is good. My video over on Michelle After Dark has just uploaded. That's good. I'll make that live. I'll send that into the universe straight after we finish here. Okay, so I can shut that down. All right, we're playing now. Let me just get it up. All right, we're playing the judge's ruling from the beginning of yesterday.
All right. Good morning, everybody. All right, so Dr. Welcher can testify that the data he downloaded and analyzed and the damage to the Lexus is consistent with Ms. Reed's vehicle being in a collision on January 29th at 12:32 a.m. because he's a qualified expert and his opinion is based on reliable methodology appropriately applied. In addition, Dr. Welcher can testify that Mr. O'Keefe's injuries are consistent with his having been struck by a Lexus that is physically identical to Ms. Reed's Lexus because this opinion is based upon, among other things, his experimental work that came into evidence without objection.
I'm sorry. Painting a tail light blue and then rubbing your arm against it doesn't classify as an experiment. And clearly, PhD or not, he does not understand the scientific method, because when Bob Alessi challenged him on it, he got it all wrong. He got it all arse about face. You start off with your research question. You start off with, what do I want to find out? And you have a completely open mind. Yes, you'll have read some stuff. You'll have, got the discovery pieces, the bits and pieces that he sent. Trooper Paul's report. But then you formulate your own research question. And the research question in this instance should have been, could John O'Keefe have been struck by Karen Reid's Lexus? That's the question one. If so, how did it happen? That should come first, right? And then you do your testing. And if your testing finds results that are inconsistent with your research question, then you work out why. So that means you might have to formulate more tests or more research questions and more tests. But because you do this kind of thing objectively, science is meant to be objective, then you follow the data and you follow the evidence. You don't just say, all right, well, this is what the Commonwealth want me to find. Let me do a silly little experiment to prove it. That is not how science works. And he should know it. He should know this. But hey, money talks. And clearly this guy doesn't have an ethical bone in his body. However, I do have massive concerns. I've said this again and again and again now. I do have massive concerns that the jury are not going to understand what on earth is going on, and they're just going to pick the easy out. And the easy out is just to convict her. The easy out is just to convict her. It concerns me. It concerns me when Alessi gets into the weeds, because he does that. I mean, some of his cross is absolutely brilliant, but he gets too far into the weeds, and that worries me. It really does.
As to scientific methodology and application. However, he may not testify that Ms. Reid's Lexus collided with Mr. O'Keefe, because that conclusion is not based on the application of reliable scientific methodology. The problem here is not that the opinion concerns the ultimate issue, because in Massachusetts, that's not a bar to admissibility. Rather, it is that Dr. Welcher, the expert, is drawing an inference based upon more than scientific method. His opinions set the stage for argument and a permissible inference to be drawn by jurors through the application of their sound judgment to the opinions that they find credible. But the jurors are as well positioned to draw or reject the inference as is the expert. That is, the inference is not compelled by the application of any scientific method. So that's the ruling. All right. So
basically, you can't say that a collision happened. You can't say that. So there was a little bit more of direct testimony, and then we get into a lot of breaks, a lot of sidebars. That's lunch. And it got pretty intense, though, during the afternoon. Lots of stoppages. But we're going to get right to the end here. And we're going to play what went down after the jury left. The jury departed early, yet again, because they had to sort out. So I didn't know what was going on, because we don't know because of all the sidebars. So you have to try and read between the lines based on what's been objected to and stuff. So this is the voir dire.
Okay, Mr. Alessi, it's your voir dire.
Go ahead, a moment, Your Honor, to switch.
Didn't her car have a backup camera? It did. Trooper Paul tested it. Trooper Paul tested it. You see, the thing that the stuff that Trooper Paul tested with Karen Reid's actual Lexus, like he didn't have to buy a new one with an actual Lexus. He did testing in the parking lot of the Canton Police Department, and that was hilarious at the time. But the stuff that he did makes way more sense than the stuff that this guy did. The way that he went wrong, the thing that was absolutely hilarious was he claimed that John O'Keefe had pirouetted for 30 feet. That was that's the thing that made him a laughing stock. But looking back on it now, it's better. It was better than this. It was better than this. But I'm going to play some of Trooper Paul after. And I've tried to work it out. I've got a map and everything. But, hey, right.
Your Honor,
Yes.
can I load up my slides?
Yeah. Can you do that while you're sitting here answering questions? Yes.
Oh, and another thing. How come Welcher is allowed to have his laptop with him on the stand? How come he can change PowerPoint slides while he's actually on the stand? How come the judge tells him to put it away and he doesn't, and she has to tell him again? How is he getting away with it? I cannot abide this guy, and surely any other court would have seen him with his laptop and said, excuse me, you can't have this here. Now, look, he might be playing his slides through his laptop, but no, the slides should be played from the report that he submitted to both the Commonwealth and the defence. He shouldn't have any control over his slides while he's testifying, because he could be changing all sorts of things. He's there looking at his laptop. How is this allowed? How is this allowed to happen? When Hank said he thought the defence were going to do a trial by ambush, well, Hank, look at what your own witnesses are doing. The judge needs to take a firmer stance. If this was a defence witness, she'd have thrown the laptop through the window. I know he admitted he was changing stuff while he was testifying. It's absurd. It's just crazy. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Never seen anything like it. I don't know what he's lost. Karen's helping him now. Come on, you don't got much time. He's rushing you. Get going.
I'm going to start with Your Honor with regard to Paul.
Okay. And we're on a very limited schedule here. Okay.
Okay, Your Honor.
You did allow them 10 minutes extra. She said they had to be done by 4:10. So she stayed 10 minutes late. Bet she was knackered.
Mr. Wolk, with Your Honor's permission, if we could pull up the January 30th, 2025 PowerPoint of Dr. Welcher in slide 36. You see that, Dr. Welcher? you recall that from your January 30th, 2025 PowerPoint?
I thought I had replaced the video on the left-hand side by the time I produced it.
Sir, I got to
don't
go through
recall
this
that.
quickly. That image is a drone image on the left, correct?
Oh, correct,
And you had that in your original report, but you removed it in subsequent reports, correct?
correct.
Where did you get that drone image from?
It was in the file.
Wasn't it in the CARS report of Trooper Paul?
I believe it was.
So you took that drone image from the CARS report of Trooper Paul, correct?
Correct.
Let's, if we could, Mr. Woke, go to diagram 1. Do we have that electronic?
Listen, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he took everything from Trooper Paul. I think his report is in part plagiarized. I don't know whether you can call it that, but he's took a whole bunch. And all this baloney that he's been saying about all this analysis he's been doing, no, you can just copy Trooper Paul's because it's the same data.
Of Trooper Paul's report?
And look at him. He plays dumb. When there's something that he's not happy with, he plays dumb. And like, oh, it wasn't clear. Come on now.
Do you recognize that as diagram 1 from Trooper Paul's report?
Yes.
So, and that's the diagram that you took that image and you put it in your January 30th, 2025 PowerPoint, correct?
I'm pulling up my version of the PowerPoint.
Good God. He's pulling up his version of the PowerPoint. No! You should not be allowed to do that. He should not be having his computer with his modified slides. We don't know what's on those slides. We don't know whether he's got a whole bunch of stuff that he's trying to, I don't know. I just don't trust him. I don't know what he's doing, but he shouldn't be allowed to do whatever it is he's doing. He should not be allowed to have his computer. If he needs a hard copy of the slides, then the Commonwealth should have provided them to him like they do other witnesses when they have to look at their report. They give them the page and they give them a little bit of time to review the page. And then they ask them questions, but they're not allowed to have the slides and have the ability to edit them. He admitted he's editing his slides during testimony. How is that? I can't abide him. How is that allowed? How is it allowed? It's just insane. Every day there's something else that is just completely off the wall crazy. And there's no way that Bev, sitting right there, she can see exactly what he's doing. And telling him to put it away and telling him to put his lid down, she should demand he does it. He shouldn't be having the laptop. The laptop should not be with him. The laptop should be in his bag. And if he needs to see the slides, it should be the slides that have been sent to the court, to the Commonwealth and the defence as part of his report. He can't be changing stuff. This is how they got into problems the day before, when everybody had a different version and they had to work out which one was the right version. This is insanity. How much time is this wasting? It's terrible. But I can tell you exactly what that is. I can tell you exactly what that is. Hold on. I've got it on my PowerPoint. Listen, I've got a PowerPoint now. I'll show it in a bit. All right. All right, this is a screenshot from Trooper Paul. So this is one of Trooper Paul's diagrams based on drone footage. So this is diagram 3. They've got diagram 1, but it's essentially the same thing. This is just a zoomed out version. And diagram 3 is a zoomed in version. And Trooper Paul explained to the jury what all this is. And these arrows are terrible, absolutely terrible. But you've got the flagpole, you've got pedestrian's final rest. Okay. You've got glass cup, which was near John O'Keefe's body. You've got the shoe, and then they've only put 2 pieces of red plastic and 1 piece of clear plastic on the diagram. So at least we know where 3 pieces of taillight were found. So that, to me, is clear. Have we seen anything like this in this trial? Like, at least it gives the positions of stuff. We should have been seeing the photographs. We should have seen photographs of this entire site. But they didn't take them. They didn't take them. We should have been able to see photos of exactly where John O'Keefe was in relation to all of these other pieces. But no, we don't see anything like that at all. Okay. I didn't plagiarize, honest. Listen, why don't they just get Trooper Paul's report, get his analysis, and compare them? No sound. Oh, good God. All right, sorry, guys. It's StreamYard again. It's not done it for a while. All right, what we have to do is this. It's a simple fix. Okay. All right, let me know if you can hear it now. Is that all right now? All right, it's good now. Okay. StreamYard does this from time to time. It just basically drops the audio. There's no rhyme, no reason. It just does it. It's bizarre. And it's not done it for a while. So I thought they'd obviously fix the glitch, but no. Of course not. Okay, you didn't miss anything. They're just faffing about with this PowerPoint. Just faffing about with it. And he's trying to say, oh, I didn't plagiarize anything. But get Trooper Paul's report, get his analysis, and then just compare them. Surely that's not difficult.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to
Yes,
Mr. Brennan, this is. May I approach the witness? Excuse me, Dr. Welcher. You see this first page, do you recognize this as the cover page for the Trooper Paul report that I was referring to?
Please, let me show the signature.
You want to look at the report?
You know what I think he's doing? He's just playing for time. He knows that the judge is rushing a lessee. He's just playing for time. Like, he plays dumb when he doesn't want to address something. I bet he was an absolutely obnoxious child. I bet he was really obnoxious. I bet he was really spoiled and just very obnoxious, very, very self-entitled. The kind of kid that I would have wanted to knock into next week. My mother used to say that to me. She used to say, I'll knock you into next Tuesday if you don't shut up and behave. She did. She did.
I don't know for sure there is a signature on the report.
Signature block right here.
Yeah.
Trooper Paul, page 16.
I have that.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, what I want to do is to go to diagram 1. If I could, Your Honor, republish what was just up. I'm showing you diagram 1, sir, and I'm asking you, is that the image from Trooper Paul's report that you then used to put into your January 30th slide presentation?
No. See all the writing on here, the glass top, all the dimensions here. Here's my January 30th one. None of that stuff's here. There's different. None of this stuff is here.
Isn't it the case that this is cropped?
So what he's done, right, he's taken Super Paul's writing off and put his own on. That's what it sounds like he did. Yeah, Daddy was a doctor. Told him not to be a doctor. Yes, I know. So decided to be an engineer instead.
More, and there's a larger picture of the same image or not?
See this tree?
Yes.
I'm glad he didn't become a medical doctor because his bedside manner would have been absolutely atrocious.
These trees?
Yes.
See all these measurements by the trees? All
Yes.
these? That's right here.
Okay.
Those do not show up on my image.
Let me go to a different method then to do this. You have an image. Let me go, Mr. Wolf, to the January 30th presentation.
Slide 36.
Correct. Where did you get that image from that's in your PowerPoint presentation on the left?
I think it was from the file, satellite image from the file.
What part of the file, sir?
I actually don't know at this time.
How close is the image on diagram 1, the drone image, to the image that you can't now recall where you got it from for your slide presentation? Are they similar?
So that one has a whole bunch of measurements and ID on it, but the underlying image is very similar. It's probably the same one.
Because didn't he supposedly go to 34 Fairview? This is what he testified to. He went to 34 Fairview, did laser scanning, did all of the stuff, all of the things. Where's that? Where have we seen any of that? Why did he go to 34 Fairview and do a bunch of laser scanning that we haven't seen? Like, can buy a Lexus just so that he can put some paint on the taillight and rub his arm up against it, but supposedly takes laser scans. Why did he not do his own drone footage? I don't know, but he uses everything from Trooper Paul and just changes it a bit.
Yes. Do you know of any other place you could have, let's put the presentation back up on the slide presentation. Do you know of any other location other than Trooper Paul's report that you could have got that drone image from?
No, I'm not sure I got it from the report. I recall getting it from the file.
My question is, do you know of any other source other than Trooper Paul's report that you could have gotten that drone image from?
So this image is not in that report.
It's not my
Yes, it is. You asked me anything but the report. That image is not in that report.
Did you get the drone image from any file from the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Okay.
So didn't get it from Trooper Paul's report, but got it from the Massachusetts State Police, where Trooper Paul works, and Trooper Paul was the one who did the testing and the drone stuff. So put 2 and 2 together there. Come on, got a PhD.
Trooper Paul work on any drone images to your knowledge with respect to 34 Fairview?
I don't know.
Concerned about the amount of Lexuses orbiting space. That was surreal.
But you would agree that the drone images are from the Massachusetts State Police file, correct?
Give me 1 second.
Sir, let me know you've had a fair opportunity to answer that question.
Yeah, give me a second.
What is he even looking at? What is he even doing?
Yes, it came in a file called cars-trp.jopal.
Okay.
So they came from Trooper Paul's report. Okay.
So it came from, and that's the report of Trooper Paul, correct?
No, these are drone images that are not in the report.
No, I'm saying what you just read. Can you repeat it again, what you just read, where it came from?
Trooper Paul did the CARS report because that their unit is called CARS. I think that's a great acronym. I can't remember what it stands for, but the CARS report is Trooper Paul's report. And he even put his name on it. Paul is his name. That's Trooper Paul's drone imagery. And those are what he used to put his put his stuff on, like to make diagrams from. This is from Trooper Paul's work. This is Trooper Paul's work that he's passing off as his own. This is absolutely outrageous, given the amount of money this man has received. And he'll go, oh, well, I didn't receive any money. It's the company. I don't know. I don't know whether a client pays us or not. It might be 9, 10 or 12 months before I would know as vice president that we're not being paid. What a cock of absolute bullshit. It's just, he's lying. He's lying. What if clients just decided from now on to stop paying? Because they hear this and they're like, oh, they don't find out for a year that we haven't paid them. We can get some work done and then we can go on vacation in Costa Rica for the next year and they won't even know that we haven't paid them. Absolute complete nonsense. As soon as an invoice isn't paid, then it's flagged up. And yeah, the vice president might not know straight away, but you can bet your bottom dollar that he's going to know very soon. If not, then what does he actually do with his time? If he's not actually, dealing with stuff to do with his company. 400K they've been paid. Almost 400K has gone to Aperture. And, he might say, oh, well, I just take a salary. How much money we actually pay, how much money we're built, that just goes to the company. But he's vice president. He'll be on some kind of commission or some kind of, reward. So if he brings in like a certain amount of money, he'll get a percentage of that. Some of it will go to the company, and then I bet you any money that he's on commission. So he'll get a flat salary, and then whatever else he brings into the company, he'll get a share of. I can guarantee you that's how it works. I can guarantee you. It's absolute nonsense. He's lying. Lying.
I read you a folder that contains a bunch of things, including the report.
Understood.
But now you can see, this guy's the vice president. Now you can see how Shannon Burgess has got away with lying about his CV on LinkedIn. Because that's small fry, considering what this guy is now doing. This guy has plagiarized from the Massachusetts State Police report from Trial 1, passing it off as his own work, and he has done nothing. He's done nothing. What have we actually seen that he's done that's original? Oh, yeah, painting a tail light blue and rubbing his arm up against it. That's one thing. They went and did some scanning of One Meadows and then conclusively proved that Karen Ree's tail light didn't crack when she bumped John O'Keefe's car. Why all the scanning? Why did they not just take the exemplar Lexus, have John O'Keefe's car or a similar car in that position? We know exactly where it was. reverse the Lexus out of the garage and bump John O'Keefe's car and see what happens. That's the actual test. Not all of this nonsense with fancy scanners. That's not going to give you the answer. That's not going to give you the answer at all. Why did they not just do that and see what damage? See what damage? It's not difficult, is it? That's an actual experiment that replicates the original scene. So that's what you want to do with an experiment, is replicate the real world as closely as you can. And in that instance, they could replicate that real world scenario exactly. But no, didn't do that. Took fancy scans that probably took them 10 minutes. And then, he did a fancy overlay, which would have also taken him probably 5 minutes. So how much work, original work, has he actually done that amounts to $400,000?
That image is not in his report.
Can you read the file name again that you just read?
The folder name
Yes.
is cars-TRP period Joe Paul.
Okay. And did you get the drone?
So Trooper Paul's name is Joseph. So he's not got it from the report, but he's got it from a folder. So the folder that Trooper Paul created with all of his work in it, how has he even got the access to that folder? How has he got access to that folder? Why was he allowed to see Trooper Paul's report? Surely Aperture should have been brought in to do an objective assessment of this entire thing. They should have started from scratch. You got it all from Tully. Yeah. He's mates with Tully. How come he has got access to Trooper Paul's folders that he has basically pilfered through and just put them all in his report? This is plagiarism. This is disingenuous. This is unethical. And Trooper Paul must be laughing his head off. It's absolutely farcical.
Image from that file folder.
I did.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now let's go on to the May 26, 2025 PowerPoint that you created. And I'd like to go to slides 25, 26, and 27. Have you discussed with anybody today at all the source of what is depicted up on this slide?
No.
Okay, so let's now go to where did you get you see the larger chart to the left there in the, looks like mostly a rectangle. Do you see that, sir?
What slide are you on? What slide is that?
25, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, and then if we could click to 26, because it looks like it's the same. If we can go to 26 and 27, looks like it's the same one. You tell me.
It's similar.
Similar, okay.
Yeah.
In 27,
Correct.
see the same or similar one there. Okay.
These are all from Google Maps.
Well, my question is,
So he's been able to plot some routes on Google Maps. So $400,000, and he's got some stuff from Google Maps about stuff that, what's it got to do with his biomechanical experiments? The route that Karen Reed took. What's that got to do with his role in this investigation?
may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, let me ask you this, so I don't keep going back and forth. Do you have access, sir, to the CARS report of Trooper Paul on your computer?
Think so? You remember the name of it?
I don't. We'll do it with the hard copy. Mr. Brenner, I'd like to show them. Thank you. So, if I could, approach her. Yeah. So you see what I'm pointing to right here, which is page 10 of Trooper Paul's CARS report. Do you see that?
I was looking at her watch.
Is this the same report? It's dated 1/29/2022?
I believe so, sir. Let me just take a peek.
Michelle would have done that for half. Yeah. I've lost my way in life. If I knew how to bullshit like these guys, I could have been rich by now because I know how to use Google Maps.
This is, you can just compare this to the one I got in my hand. Take it and look for any identification that gives you, right? We got the same one.
Yeah, mine's flipped.
Okay.
So that's a bit.
Okay. So we have that report, and I now am referencing page 10 of that report, and I'm looking at the chart on page 10. Is that chart on page 10 the same or substantially the same as the chart that is up on your slide presentation right now?
So it's not the same. I did not use this data at all, but we both use Google Maps.
Okay. All right. Now let's go to your, continuing on the same slide. If Mr. Woke, we go to slides 22 and 23.
This will be the last on this, Mr. Leslie. If you want to get to the autopsy photo, we're wrapping this all up at 4:10.
Okay, Your Honor.
He'll be paid per day for his trial testimony. So that'll be extra.
You see these photos?
I'm sorry.
You see the photos that are up on that?
I do.
Okay. Do you, in terms of those photos, do you recognize any aspect of those photos?
Yes.
What do you recognize in terms of the person in it?
Oh,
Trooper Paul.
you want me to limit it to just these 3 photos?
Any photo that would be this photo or any photo similar to it. But let's start with just these 3.
From Trooper
If,
Paul.
if I have to limit it to these 3, I don't know who that is.
Okay, and if you don't limit it to those 3, who would you conclude it is in those photos?
It appeared to be Trooper Paul from other photos.
Okay, so you can tell from other photos that this is Trooper Paul.
Well, he's put Trooper Paul's photos that Trooper Paul took, or whoever Trooper Paul's colleague took, of Trooper Paul doing the experiments, and Welcher has put them in his report as if they're his work. This is terrible.
In these photos, correct?
I have photos of Trooper Paul in the car. I don't know that someone else switched out. I have no reason to believe this isn't anybody but Trooper Paul.
Okay. Would you?
That's not the issue here. The issue is it's not you, is it? It's not you or anyone from your company who's been paid $400,000. He has taken Trooper Paul's work and displayed it to the court as his own. Is Trooper Paul still employed? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Have any understanding that there's any other trooper that would be doing this type of analysis other than Trooper Paul?
Someone else took the photographs?
No, I'm talking inside the vehicle.
I'm sorry?
Inside the vehicle doing what's depicted.
Did you see how dumb he plays? He's doing this on purpose. Do you see how dumb he plays?
Here.
Someone's inside the vehicle taking the photograph.
What's your best conclusion as to who that is?
Trooper Paul.
Thank you. Your Honor, that is.
Okay, so next topic.
Yes,
go right
thank you.
ahead.
And I just need to reload, if you will, with regard to that topic. If you could, if Your Honor, you can go to slide, and I think I can do this fairly quickly.
Okay.
If you can go, Mr. Woke, to slide 131 of Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint presentation, and it's now 132. I don't believe that's the right one. It's the
One before that.
I think you're, yeah, okay.
Now, only Trooper Proctor got sacked, but Trooper Paul might have got a new job. He might have left of his own choice.
So this is slide 131 from your slide presentation, correct, sir?
Correct.
And if you look to the far right, I'm sorry, Mr. Woke, you go to the other one. Yes.
So these are from Scotty Bello. This is the autopsy report. I recognize this. We didn't see this in trial 1. sorry, in this trial, but we saw it in trial 1. When I did my review of Scotty Bello the other day, when I did my live stream on her testimony from trial 1, I showed you this diagram. This is the diagram of the fractures inside John O'Keefe's head. All of this is the autopsy report. So he's copied and pasted Scotty Bello's autopsy report. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but how does this relate to his biomechanical work? Why all this copy and pasting? Why is it necessary?
That's that one, and scroll down so we can see what's in green.
There you go.
For
that diagram that I showed you from Scotty Bello's testimony from trial 1. Exactly.
Depiction, that is from Dr. Scotty Bello's autopsy report, page 3, correct? Is that where you got that from?
It's from the report. Take your word for it on page 3.
So, but it is from Dr. Scotty Bello's autopsy report, correct?
Right.
Now, if you could go to, if we could zoom back out and go to the multicolored image in the center, up at the top.
Just go straight.
Yep. Thank you. If you can go to the very top line, it says autopsy report performed by Irene Scotty Bello, MD, PhD. If you can scroll back over, date of autopsy, January 31, 2022, and then you see final diagnoses. That is all directly from the autopsy report, is it not, sir?
Yes.
And that is in your slide presentation, correct, sir? This is page 131 of your slide presentation, correct?
Correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, you are all set, Doctor.
Thank you, Ron.
All right. Oh, did
No,
you have any
no.
questions, Mr. Brennan?
No, it's
I
not.
have a couple quickly.
Okay.
Thank you for 2 minutes.
Brennan, big mad. Brennan has to get his little piece in here.
Dr. Welcher, you were shown a photograph of the street of Fairview Road. Did you know that didn't come from Trooper Paul? It came from the CERT report, and Trooper Paul then took it from the CERT report and put it in separately in his presentation. Did you know that?
So what does that matter? What does that matter? That matters absolute zero. The fact that Trooper Paul used one of the CERT team's images is irrelevant to this, because both the CERT team and the CARS team work for the same organization. They were doing the investigation together. This sham here, this company, Aperture, were brought in to do a brand new investigation. That's what they were paid for, to do a brand new investigation. If they were just going to take the Massachusetts State Police work, what was the point of paying them $400,000, which I think is what Alessi is getting at. I think this is the purpose of this particular rod here. That's what I take from it anyway.
I had no idea. I just was given it as a folder.
And the photo you were using, it didn't have the markings that Trooper Paul put on his report, did it?
It did not.
When Trooper Paul, when you used that photo, was it because you were...
Yeah, so Trooper Paul took the image from the CERT and put arrows and stuff on to make it clear where things were. Okay, that's fine. They're working for the same organization. They're part of the same investigation. This guy, with his fancy laser scanning and stuff, should have done everything from scratch, but he didn't. This has just been plagiarized.
for borrowing, relying on, or using any of Trooper Paul's reports for your conclusions or any of your decisions or analysis in this case?
I did not use his report at
It
all.
was simply limited to the use of the photo to show a different demonstrative issue.
Correct.
And then when you saw diagram 1, again, that was different than what was used in Trooper Paul's report because it had absent in it all the writing. Isn't that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Did you rely on Trooper Paul's analysis or conclusions in this case for your conclusions and your analysis?
Not at all.
Is that why you went and downloaded the information and looked at the car and did everything individually, separately, and uniquely from Trooper Paul?
I wanted it to be independent in my analysis.
Regarding Dr.
No,
Scotabello, did you ever
the
consider
same
her
analysis.
conclusions regarding manner and
Not the
cause of
same
death as a
analysis.
basis for your analysis and conclusions?
Yes.
And when you considered her analysis, did you consider the conclusion of undetermined cause of death, was that part of your analysis?
Oh, no, I was using like the skull fractures, the description of the injuries.
So you were considering the information in her autopsy report?
Correct.
How about her conclusions? Did you rely on her conclusions to do your studies or any analysis in this case as far as cause of death or manner of death?
Only I thought I said blunt force trauma and hypothermia.
Okay. Regarding her conclusions about whether this was caused by a car accident or not, did you consider that as the basis of your opinion?
No, I wouldn't take a person like that's opinion for that.
Did you ever have
I wouldn't take a person like that's opinion. A person like that. As if Dr. Scordibello, MD, PhD, is lesser than him. Oh, I wouldn't take a person like that's opinion. Dear God. Does he look back on how he sounds? Dear God.
a conversation with Dr. Scordibello about her expertise limitations?
No.
Expertise limitations. She's a medical examiner with a medical degree and a PhD. How are her conclusions in conducting a relatively straightforward autopsy, to be honest? And then the bit where she needed extra specialism with was John O'Keefe's brain, which she sent to the neuro expert, who we've also looked at. We've looked at her testimony as well, haven't we? Yes.
I would want a biomechanical analysis.
Was your opinion regarding the collision in this case, it had anything to do whatsoever with Dr. Scordibello's conclusions regarding cause of death, whether it was accident, undetermined, or homicide?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Your Honor.
All right, one question. Can we just wrap it up? I'd like to hear you argue, but we don't have time, so I'm just gonna.
I have two questions, Your Honor. You put in your slide presentation information from the autopsy report of Dr. Scordibello for a reason, correct, sir? And that reason is because you considered the autopsy report as part of your analysis, correct?
So I considered portions, which are the portions I included here for the autopsy report.
And part of those considerations were the final diagnoses. We put that back up, Mr. Woke. But you recall the slide that you had has the final diagnoses of Dr. Scordibello, and you put that in your slide presentation because you considered that as part of your analysis, else it wouldn't be in there, correct?
So the final diagnosis is in there. There's a line, then it says cause of death, and then manner of death.
Right.
The things I highlighted are the things I thought were important. So the highlighting on slide 130. So the final diagnosis, again, does not.
Oh, so he put some highlighting on it. Oh, that's how he made it his own work. I see.
Include cause of death, does not include manner of death. There's that horizontal line demarcating those. The important things that I was looking at are the under or highlighted, which is why I highlighted them.
Exactly. So the ones that you highlighted, you considered are from the autopsy report. That's why you're highlighting them, right, sir? You
Correct.
Considered that.
Correct.
Thank you. No
You're welcome.
questions, Your Honor. I
All
appreciate that
right.
opportunity.
So I'm not going to let you argue now. I'll hear you very briefly tomorrow before we stop. But Mr. Leslie, how much longer are you going to be tomorrow?
I could have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Can she be any more rude? All this sighing and huffing, and she's so unprofessional.
I'm about halfway through, Your Honor. I think we'll pick up a little bit tomorrow. If we can get the things quicker, I would like to do that. But given today, that's my best estimate.
So we're half a day tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
All right, so the half a day, but she wants to rush him, basically. Okay. All right, I want to give you a couple of examples here from the cross-examination. Let's do 307. I don't know which ones I'm going to play. I've got a bunch, but I'm not going to play them all, or else we'll be here all day. So I'm just going to pick a couple. Let's do this one.
I've used the word like, but we want to go to the scene to see the scene.
When you visited 34 Fairview, did you go into the garage at 34 Fairview?
No, I actually didn't say.
Wait, scoffing! No, no.
Foot on the property.
You didn't set foot on the property.
No, I stayed in the street. It's my understanding there were new owners.
Did you consider the scene limited to the road?
So the access I had was to the road. The laser scanners and the photographs will extend further, but I didn't have access to the interior of the house.
Oh, so you didn't.
What was the point? What was the point of even going to 34 Fairview to take some photos and laser scans when he used? We haven't seen any of that. We haven't seen any of that. What we've seen is, well, none of that. So what was the point? What was the point?
Access the entire scene, correct?
In my opinion, I did access the entire scene. I didn't physically step 7 feet onto the grass to the point of rest, but I stood and photographed where that was. I didn't want to trespass.
Where did you understand the body of Mr. O'Keefe was located?
I know it was 7 feet in from the grass. I've seen cruiser cameras showing people around a body. It's slightly north, and I guess, or excuse me, slightly.
How could you get that it was 7 feet from the road from body cam or cruiser cam? How could you get that? How could you get that? What he's used is Trooper Paul's measurements.
South and a little bit west of the flagpole.
But you
a little
didn't.
bit south and a little bit west of the flagpole. Okay. All right. All right. Let's take a look then. Let's take a look then. Flagpole. Final rest. So, no, it's not. It's a tiny bit south, but it's a whole lot east of the flagpole. So, no, that was wrong. That was wrong. I'm sure at the first trial, I'm sure 8 to 10 feet was an estimate that they said 8 to 10 feet from the road, because nobody took actual photographs of where the body was. No one bothered with that. So on my Google Earth, I've put it at 9 feet. I measured it at 9 feet just to go in between 8 to 10 feet. I don't think it matters, but he's now saying 7 feet based on cruiser cam footage. Okay, I don't know how you measure anything from cruiser cam footage, but let's go with it.
Access that part of the scene that you just described, correct?
I absolutely did. I took photographs of it. I didn't trespass and stand at that exact location, but I stood right there. We scanned the whole thing. The scanner uses a laser beam that goes out, 150, 200, 300 feet. So we scanned all that stuff.
Scanned all that stuff. All that stuff. All right. That's what 400K gets you in aperture money, in aperture time. Aperture time. I want to give you another example. All right. They're only quick examples. I might get through them all. 514. 514. 514. 514. All right. Here we are. Here we are. This is what I want to get to. This is what I want to get to here. All right. So we're talking about the report of Ian Whiffin. So per report from Ian Whiffin, O'Keefe's cell phone data showed, most notably, all device lock events, including final lock event at 12:32 and 9 seconds, were user initiated by the user pressing the side button briefly. This data indicates the final user interaction with the device was at 32 to 12:32 and 9 seconds when the device was locked. What they do not want to talk about was that wasn't the final interaction a human had with the phone. The actual final interaction that a human had with the phone was at 12:32 and 16 seconds. They don't want to talk about that. All right. They don't want to talk about it.
To the farther to the right.
Oh, I'm not the only one that has problems.
Now this I don't think the jury could make this out. Like, if you try to zoom in, it's really quite unclear. Now, obviously, we're seeing this, you know, a camera is taking video of a screen, so, you know, there might be some distortion or whatever. Maybe the jury might see it easier, I don't know. But this is called blinding the jury with numbers. They go, oh, that looks complicated and important. He must know his stuff, and I'm going to believe him. This is how people think, right? They think, I'm not clever enough to understand this, therefore I must be stupid, and therefore I should rely on this expert. This is what this testimony is all about. It's called blinding the jury with pseudoscience. Not that this stuff isn't important and relevant, but the way it's being displayed is in a way to baffle the jury. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Absolutely convinced of it. Oops. Absolutely convinced of it.
Okay.
You
Sir,
still
do
don't
you
have it.
remember testifying about this to the farther to the right?
Farther to the right.
Yep.
Keep going. Keep going.
Is
A little
that
more.
53 number down there? That column?
Right.
So
Can
you take-
we scroll up a tad so you can see the headers? There you go.
Okay.
No, okay, go ahead.
So am I in the right column relative to start? Is that the column?
So there's two columns. Like Z is relative to where it started, and then positive is forward. And then as you back up, once you go past 0, it becomes negative.
Right. So what I want to do is have you direct us to the column where you calculated 87 feet.
It's in two.
So this is about how far Karen Reid reversed, and he cannot answer a simple question. How far did Karen Reid reverse? That was the question.
Spots. It's at the end of column Y.
Right. We go all the way down. Is that in the yellow there? Is that 87, sir?
It is.
Okay. Is that the 87 number you were
Hold on
referring
a second. You asked me to identify. So then see where the one next to it says minus 53.429.
Yes.
If you go up, so it's not a little bit down, a little bit, and see where it's changing directions at 34.157.
Yes.
You add those two together, that gives you the same result. So I went 34 feet forward and then 50 something feet backwards.
Right. And what is the 87 feet traveled? Is that what you're indicating is the distance traveled during the trigger? Is that what the 87 represents to you?
That is so 87 represents the total rearward distance traveled during the trigger.
Okay. So
87 is the total rearward travel. So 87 feet is how much she traveled backwards, according to that data.
you believe 87 represents the total rearward distance. Did I hear you correctly?
Correct.
Now, can you please-
Hold on, to be clear. So it starts, it pulls forward, then it backs up, passes where it initially started, and goes 53 feet further back.
So is it 53 feet or is it 87 feet? Which is it? Because he just said 87 feet rearward. Shall I show you what Trooper Paul? Shall I show you what Trooper Paul? This is Trooper Paul's testimony from trial 1. Okay, he got a much nicer, he put it into a spreadsheet and put colours on it. So he's done this and it makes it easier for the jury to understand. These charts make it easier for the jury to understand. So instead of just putting all of the report in, you've got amount of time in reverse, vehicle speed, so kilometers and miles, average speed, acceleration drag, distance covered, acceleration, distance covered in reverse, accelerator pedal, So how much accelerator pedal was depressed or whatever. Brakes on 1, brakes off 2. 0. Why not 2? And steering input. So this is all you need. He's actually made Trooper Paul look good. All of this bullshit that he's done to confuse the jury, he's made Trooper Paul look good. Made him look good. Made him look real good. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute.
That's what I want to get to. How many feet did you say on direct, and did you just say now that it went 87 feet in reverse?
Correct.
Okay.
From its furthest point forward.
Well, that's what I want to get to because I want to have this point.
Oh, it did travel 87 feet. So it traveled 33 feet and then traveled 87 feet backwards. But that's actually 53 feet from its original starting point. That's all the jury need to understand.
Clear. How many feet do you believe the Lexus went in reverse based upon your PowerPoint presentation? Not when it went forward and then came backwards. How many feet do you believe that vehicle went in reverse?
Your question doesn't make any sense because when it went.
Your question doesn't make any sense. How far did it go in reverse? But the question doesn't make sense. How far did it go in reverse? Look at your data. How far did it travel in reverse?
And forward, then it went in reverse.
So, after it had gone forward, how far did it go in reverse? Come on now.
How many feet do you believe the Lexus went during the trigger?
So it went a total of 80. It went 34 feet forward. Then it came back 80, another 53 feet past where it went.
Exactly. So you've tested.
Do you seriously think the jury are following this? Do you seriously think the jury are caring at all at this point? And I know that Robert Alessi is working under very difficult circumstances here. This is a very belligerent witness. And he's doing his very, very best to make his questions as simple as possible. But he can't push it, can he? Like, he does get into the weeds a lot. And I am going to criticize him for that. But he doesn't really have much choice in a lot of this testimony because this guy's being so belligerent on purpose. He's doing this on purpose to drag it out and to confuse and to obfuscate and to just, I don't know. I just don't know. Because it wasn't like this during the direct examination. It wasn't like this at all in the direct examination at all. So where was Higgins' Jeep? Well, I'm going to show you where Higgins' Jeep was in a minute.
That the 1162-2 trigger event represents a backwards maneuver, correct?
So again, that was clear. It initially pulls forward and then backs up.
I would like you to define, so it's clear to the jury, do you consider the event of 1162-2 just backward movement, or do you consider the trigger to be forward movement and adding to it backward movement? Which one?
So can we pull the slide up?
Sure.
I know the answer.
Could you zoom in?
I know the answer to this. You may know the answer to this. The jury doesn't know the answer to this, though. The jury don't have the benefit of the trial 1 testimony that you can just go back and review to get a simplified version. Because what Trooper Paul did was just a simplified version of what this guy's doing. This guy makes Trooper Paul look good. come back, Trooper Paul, please. Because he made sense. Not that I agree with him with the 30-foot pirouette. That was ridiculous. That was what everybody focused on. But the actual data that he presented, whether it's right or wrong, at least it made sense. He explained it. He explained it well. And Adam Lally, for all of his, keep your voice up, Mr. Lally, and mumbling and this, that, and the third, at least he asked very specific questions that elicited the very specific answers. He led him through it, like, step by step. It made sense. And this does not make sense. How can the jury get any understanding of this? But it does concern me, as I keep saying, because when a jury doesn't understand it, it's human nature to assume that you're the one that doesn't understand it because you're stupid or, you're not educated like this guy, and therefore you just have to believe him. I'm concerned that if there's several members of the jury who are like that, who are not analytical, just not analytically minded, and not able to see through all of the superfluous shit, they're just going to believe him, and that is really bad.
And there you go. No, go back to the left. So that T in the third column for data ID represents the trigger. If you scroll over a little bit to the right, where the highlighted yellow blocks are, you can see 1 is a forward drive gear, 0 is neutral, 2 is reverse. So that's where it's switched from forward to reverse. I mentioned the brake. So you have it on the brakes coming in, slowing, stopping, going into reverse, and then backing up.
So you conclude that the vehicle for this trigger went 34 feet forward, is that correct?
Correct.
How do you know the vehicle didn't go 150 feet forward? How do you know it just went 30 feet, 4 feet forward? How do you know that?
So the only data we have is this 10-second window. And so we have the velocity when it's going forward. We know how much time it took to do that. So that tells us how far it would travel. Velocity times time is distance.
So are you saying that it is a certainty that it went forward 34 feet and there's no other number of feet it could have gone forward? You're absolutely certain of the 34 number?
No. Again, if you look, see where it says vehicle speed?
I see it.
So at the start of this event, which is the trigger -5, so the trigger is actually where it's triggered, and it takes 5 seconds before, 5 seconds after. But when the trigger...
The trigger was Karen on the throttle doing more than 30%. So 30% throttle or more creates a trigger on the Lexus. And somehow, once it starts recording a trigger, once it sees it as a trigger, like an unusual event, it starts recording, but it records 5 seconds previous. So I don't know how it does that it goes back in time 5 seconds. So it's recorded 5 seconds before the trigger. So the trigger happens, but in the 5 seconds before that, she's traveled 34 feet forward. And it's the action of reversing and putting a 30% throttle on that has triggered it. So then you get the 5% after the trigger, the 5 seconds after the trigger. So I can't explain it any better than that. So we actually do know that she traveled 34 feet before, in the 5 seconds before the trigger, but we don't know how far she traveled before that 5 seconds. So she could have been traveling for a mile, and we don't know. She could have been traveling a mile down the road, and then a trigger happened. The Lexus starts recording, and it records her going 34 feet forward before the trigger. So unless he's absolutely right, we have no idea where Karen Reid actually was when this trigger happened. She could have been heading to outer space. Exactly. Exactly.
Happens, it's actually stopped. But the 5 seconds before, it's going 13.6 miles an hour forward. So at the start of the data, it's still going 13.6 miles an hour forward, but it's slowing down. You can see you have the brake, where it says brake SW, which is short for switch. The brake switch is a 1, which means it's on. So when this event data started, it's going 13 miles an hour.
I'll ask the question a different way. Are you certain that the distance traveled forward during this trigger event was 34 feet? Are you certain?
I'm pretty certain during this trigger event.
Pretty certain or certain?
Well, I've checked the math. I've had people check my math. So I try to be as accurate as possible. I would say.
Pop it Trooper Paul's, because this is Trooper Paul's data. I don't care that you downloaded it yourself. It's still the same data. You've done nothing different than Trooper Paul did, except Trooper Paul wasn't paid 400K.
Say I'm certain,
Okay.
But I'm an engineer.
Okay.
So there's no absolutes. There's no 100% in my job.
So you're certain of the 34 feet. And is it correct that you're certain of 53 feet going backwards? Are you certain of that, sir?
So backwards from its initial starting position.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And therefore you are certain of a total of 87 feet traveled that you have at the bottom in that yellow-orange. You're certain of that as well?
At this point, I put on Twitter that Alessi is just about to snooker Welcher. It's glorious. That's what I put on Twitter. I've not even checked to see if anybody liked my tweet. Hold on. Not that it matters. You know. Oh, I got 7 likes. Oh, I got 7 likes. I even put a picture of a cat on it as well. I don't know why.
87 feet of backing, correct.
Okay. Now, you also testified on direct, as I understand it, in slide 23, that different numbers represent different gear states of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And a 0 represents neutral,
I think it's either neutral or park, but I'm pretty sure it's neutral.
a 1 represents drive,
Correct.
a 2 represents reverse,
Correct.
or a 2 can represent slowing down. Is that correct?
Not for a gear shift number.
So you did say on direct that 2 could represent reverse or slowing.
Americans are saying what's snookered. Do you know the game snooker? It's played on a table, somewhat like pool, but it's more complicated. It's called snooker. And one of the aims of the game is to pot all the balls, right? Like pool, it's the aim of the game is to pot all the balls. But you can put moves in where you basically trap your opponent so that they can't hit the next ball, the ball that they need, with the cue ball. Like pool, it's exactly like pool, that you have a cue ball, so you use the cue, you use your cue to hit the cue ball, and then the cue ball then hits the ball you want to pot. But in snooker, the game snooker, then you can snooker your opponent, and it basically means you get them in a position where they can't play a shot without fouling. So if you hit any other ball other than the cue ball with your cue, then that's a foul. And if you hit the wrong ball with your cue ball, that's also a foul. So one of the aims of the game is to snooker your opponent, because basically it accrues like faults. How does he get the numbers from the 5 seconds that they don't calculate? Well, I get it. I don't think the jury are going to get it. But I'll show you in a minute Trooper Paul's, and it makes absolute sense. It makes complete sense. What this guy's done is made a relatively simple thing into a hugely complicated mess. And I'm convinced that's on purpose.
No.
God, I hope not. It doesn't. So those numbers simply represent is the transmission and drive. Is it in neutral? Is it in reverse? It doesn't tell you anything about whether it's slowing down or not. But the brake switch and the brake pressure and the longitudinal accelerometer data gives you some information on that.
Okay, so if Your Honor, we could go to slide 30, please.
Okay.
Mr. Wolf. And I want to do it generally. There's not a need to read any specific number. I just want it clarified.
Mr. Leslie, so is this 30 or 31?
All right, what we can do here is zoom in. You have to do this to zoom in. I really don't see how the jury can make anything out. That is so blurry. That is so blurry. But there's no GPS measures on there, is there? Like, it doesn't record the position that the vehicle is in, like in space, not in outer space, but it doesn't record its geographical position, does it? Like, it doesn't give you a longitude and latitude. Oh, does it? What does that say? I don't know what that says. But what you need to know about where that vehicle actually is in the world when this trigger happens is a geographical position. Are the jury going to understand that, though? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We're only going to play like another minute or so of this. And then I'm going to show you Trooper Paul's, and I'm going to explain exactly what this guy is should be telling the jury.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Your Honor, you are correct. It's 31 in the most up-to-date presentation. Thank you. You see all the numbers in blue font on that slide, sir?
I do.
Those are all numbers that you have placed on that slide. Did I have that correct in your direct presentation?
You do?
Okay. So this Excel spreadsheet, there's also numbers in black, correct?
Correct.
So all the ones that are in blue, those are numbers that you have placed into the spreadsheet. Correct?
Correct. The one exception is column N, where it says ship position.
Yes.
I changed green to forward and red to reverse.
So the data in the columns in blue are not from the original data that was downloaded from the vehicle, correct?
Like, for example, if you look at column H, I simply did a unit conversion. So it's the same number, it's just in different units. But the black numbers represent exactly as it comes out of the vehicle, but it's the same number.
All right, that's what I wanted to get to. So for clarity for this slide, when you download this data from the vehicle.
This is so far into the weeds now. The jury must be absolutely losing the will to live. They are so far into the weeds.
What is in black, those numbers just come right out, correct? As they're stated. But the blue numbers, they don't come out like the numbers in blue. You have to do something, some calculation, some application to get to the blue, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, we're going to keep that up, Mr. Woke, please. Thank you. And when we need to get to the specific numbers, we'll be fair and make sure you can see them. Now, in these columns, do I understand it correctly that you attempted to account for wheel slippage in the revolutions per minute speed values produced by the car?
Not here. You're looking, this is 1162-1. The wheel slippage occurred in 1162-2.
Okay, and so if we go to a slide with 1162.2, we will then go to the slide you believe represents wheel slippage, is that correct?
There are data points in that represent slippage.
That's my question. In which slide?
We don't need
the wheel slippage does not cause the accelerator pedal.
I'm not saying a cause and effect. I'm just saying a correlation. Do you understand what I mean by a correlation?
Let me, if I may, try and straighten this out. So applying heavy acceleration can cause the wheels to spin. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to get at. Alrighty. So in your review of the materials that are related to January 29, 2022, did you become aware of whether there were, and you said you extensively reviewed documents, did you become aware whether there were people at 34 Fairview?
Yes.
And approximately how—
Even this gets into the weeds. Even this gets into the weeds.
How many people, without regard to names, just number, how many people did you become aware were at 34 Fairview on January 29th, 2022, the early morning hours? How many people approximately did you become aware were present?
It depends on which time, but there could be as many as 16.
As many as 16. And let's talk about the time period from midnight to 1 a.m. Do you have an understanding of how many people could have been present at 34 Fairview at that time period?
So I'm going to see you at sidebar on this, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I was going to see him at sidebar. All right. All right, we got a sidebar. We're back. Don't know why we needed a sidebar there.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Welcher, am I correct in my understanding that you believe under your theory, the Lexus for event 1162-2 backed up 53 feet? Am I correct?
No, it backed up a total of 87 feet.
Okay, let's take your 87. It backed up a total of 87, okay?
Correct.
And your further theory is that it did so and reached 24 miles per hour, correct?
Correct.
And you stated
He's going to snooker. This is a snooker.
you have an understanding of a certain number of people, and I don't want to talk about the inside of the house, but just that were at 34 Fairview between roughly 12 and 1 a.m. Do you have an understanding of that, sir? Approximately.
I believe I do.
And what is that number?
Did you want them people that were there for that entire window of time, or
Yeah,
just?
Yes, 12 to 1.
Oh.
So Mr. Alessi, just move to the last question.
Right, sure. So, sir, did you assume that there were cars parked out front of 34 Fairview at that 12 to 1 o'clock window? Did you assume any cars parked out front?
The entire time?
No, I'm just talking 12 to, yeah, any time between 12 and 1. Did you make any assumptions whether there were
See,
cars?
he's just playing dumb. Were there any cars parked outside between 12 and 1? Doesn't have to be the whole time, just any car that was parked outside between 12 and 1. Even making a very simple question look complicated. Look at his face. That's fake. He's a lying little torag.
Parked out front on the roadway at 34 Fairview. Did you make any assumptions with regard to that?
At a point in time, there was a vehicle behind it.
I'm sorry,
There was a vehicle behind it.
just one?
That is my understanding. In terms of on the street, is
On
your
the street,
question.
exactly.
Yes.
And what, do you remember the type of vehicle?
Yes.
What kind of vehicle was it?
An F-150 pickup.
Did you have any understanding as to whether there was a Jeep vehicle on the road at that 12 to 1 time period?
I had seen testimony somewhere to that effect, but the majority of the testimony was there were no other vehicles.
But you did see testimony that there was also a Jeep type vehicle on the front, out the front of 34 Fairview between 12 and 1. Is that what you're recalling?
So we're going to let that.
Why is that an objection, Hank? Why is that an objection, Hank? Is it because this completely breaks the fact that Karen Reid could reverse at 24 miles per hour and not hit Brian Higgins' vehicle?
Answer stand what he's just testified to. Just go ahead and.
Okay, so Dr. Welcher, what I want to do is to have you, using your data, you say 87 feet for the backup, correct? 1162, up to 24 miles per hour. Isn't there a likelihood, if there is at least one vehicle out in front of 34 Fairview, that there would be a collision of the Lexus SUV with the vehicle out front?
No, the vehicle had left prior to the end or prior to event 1162-2.
What information do you have with regard to how many vehicles?
He's talking about Ryan Nagel leaving. What he's not factored in is Brian Higgins.
Are in front of 34 Fairview at between 12 and 1.
So I have Ms. Reed's interview statements. I have statements of a number of witnesses. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the names.
I was just going to say, let's not just number of vehicles.
Okay, so I have a number of witness statements at multiple statements from the same witnesses at different times. indicating the path and following the Lexus to the house,
Yeah,
and then leaving before the event.
Ryan Nagel actually wasn't driving, but Ryan Nagel is the one that I always remember because he in trial one they all testified, didn't they? All of them. What was his name? The driver, Daltano, something like that. But it was Ryan Nagel going picking up his sister, and she didn't leave, so he parked there for a bit. He followed Karen's Lexus in, parked behind her, and then when he left, there was only Karen in the car. That's Ryan Nagel's testimony. He didn't see anyone else, didn't see anyone inside the vehicle, didn't see anyone outside the vehicle, and Karen was there. And there was also, though, Brian Higgins was already there. And Brian Higgins had parked close to the mailbox.
Assume that there were vehicles, at least one vehicle, parked out front of 34 Fairview. Is there a likelihood that, given 24 miles per hour over 87 feet, is there a likelihood that there would be a collision given the weather conditions as you knew them to be at that time?
Well, the weather, I don't think necessarily plays into whether there would be a collision or not, but we know it backed up 87 feet. So again, it goes forward like 35-ish and then back like 60 something. And so if something is within 65 feet of the rear of it, or whatever the numbers are, I need my slides.
It was 50.
50,
Okay. Yeah,
57. If something is within that window, then it would hit it.
all right, good. So now let's look at another scenario. If it's going as you describe it, is there a likelihood that the Lexus would also go upon the lawn in front of 34 Fairview?
It depends on where it starts.
You have an opinion?
All right. I want to show you something. All right, because time is ticking on. So I did have a couple of other examples, but I'm gonna just break it off here just to give us time just to do this. I tried to keep these within an hour, an hour and a half tops, but I've gone way over already. But I do want to show you what I've been working on. All right. So I'll develop this more during the defense testimony. So I've only done this like roughly at the moment. So got my PowerPoint. All right. So that's the timeline that I've already showed you, right? So this is putting in the Apple Health data from John O'Keefe's phone that it walked for 20 seconds, 36 steps, which is 83.5 feet between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16, right? So that's a human actually walking with the phone, because I'm not aware that iPhone 11s can actually walk themselves. And then this is the figure that they're getting all het up about, like they want the jury to remember this as the last interaction, 12:32:09. And then you've got the trigger event here. This is from Karen's Lexus that could have occurred any time in this 8-second window. So between 12:32:04 and 12:32:12, the trigger event could have occurred. Okay, so that's the timeline. This is from Trooper Paul. So I've already showed you this. This is from Trooper Paul. So this is a flagpole. This is where John O'Keefe's body was found. This is where the glass cut was. And then you've got the taillight pieces and shoe. Okay. So you're looking a few feet southeast of the flagpole, right? So what I tried to do is a thought experiment. That could it be possible? Could it be absolutely possible? Not probable, but just possible that there was a collision and John O'Keefe did die as a result of being pirouetted from the road to this position hitting his head and dying as a result of that head injury. So is it possible? I think not. However, it's a thought experiment. So based on the data we have, how could that have worked? Right? How could it have worked? And where would the likely impact site be? Well, according to Trooper Paul thinks that the impact site was somewhere near the fire hydrants, kind of between here and this bunch of stuff here, right? That everything was propelled forward. Everything was propelled forward. And John pirouetted 30 feet forward. No, that's silly. I think if there was an impact, then the impact site would likely be here, where the shoe is. Because we do know that sometimes when people are hit, like basically taken off their feet by a vehicle, they lose their shoes. Sometimes, obviously, if you're wearing really tightly fitting shoes, it's not going to happen. But if you're wearing slip-on shoes or you're wearing like sneakers that are not tightly laced up, anything that's not tight on your feet, you might lose your shoes. So if I had to pick a site for an impact, I'd pick it here. That John O'Keefe was kind of walking along here and the collision happens. It breaks a couple of pieces of taillight off and he's then flung maybe 8, 9, 10 feet to the west, right? And lands here. Okay. All right. And somehow the glass cup manages to go in exactly the same trajectory as he thought. I don't know. I just don't know. It's just so improbable. But again, we're just looking at what is possible. So I'm going to take the position of the shoe as the impact site. Okay. So you're looking at maybe a third of the way between the flagpole and the fire hydrant. That's where I'm going to take the impact site to be. Okay. Now, these are Trooper Paul's data. This is Trooper Paul's data. So this is the trigger. Trooper Paul has it all color-coded. So it's easy to understand. Very easy to understand. This is the trigger. This is the trigger. And this is in seconds at the top here. So you don't have to understand how many seconds it was away from the key turn on. You just have to match up the numbers. So this is the trigger. Now, it'll record 5 seconds before this trigger, right? And 5 seconds after this trigger. What we're interested in is the 5 seconds after the trigger, because we want to know at what time did the impact happen. That's what we want to know. So we know the trigger happened. We know the trigger happened according to testimony that's been presented. Again, this is a thought experiment, and I'm going with the data that the Commonwealth have presented. Okay, so I'm just seeing whether this is at all possible for this to work. So we know the trigger is between 12:32:04 and 12:32:12, and we know the trigger is here. Okay, we know the trigger is here. So we don't have to know what these seconds mean. We just have to match up the right number of seconds. So 11:42.2. Okay, so if we go to this chart, which is the distance chart, again, this is from Trooper Paul, who presented this really rather nicely. When you compare what absolute nonsense we're dealing with, right now. So this is the distance chart from the trigger. Oh yeah, she's at John's at 12:36. Oh, I know. It doesn't work. I know. This is a thought experiment based on the Commonwealth's data. Could it have happened? That's my research question. Could it have happened? All right. So we know this is just short of half a second after the trigger, because we know the trigger. We know the trigger happened at 11:42:2. All right. So I don't know why it didn't do exactly half a second, but that is the place where the number of seconds or milliseconds directly after the trigger. Okay. So if we go here, all right. So at 11:42:55, she was in between. Okay, the data suggests that she's done a mount forward, and then she stopped, and then she hits reverse. All right. So this is the vehicle speed. I don't know why we've not got the next second on here, because in the next millisecond, she's up to 24.2 miles per hour. Okay. And we've got distance covered. And then the acceleration pedal. We know there's no braking. There's no braking at all. No braking at all in this entire sequence. Even at the very last millisecond, or half second, it's not a millisecond, the half second, there's no braking. And according to Trooper Paul's data here, according to Trooper Paul's data, she has covered 97.35 feet in those 5 seconds after she first went into reverse. So we've got 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. And then there's another half second and she gets up to 24.2. I don't know why it's not on here. A bit weird. I don't know. But according to this data that was presented at trial 1, she actually went 97.35 feet. 97.35 feet. Now, Trooper Paul said that the impact he believed was here. He believed was here. Because there's a slight shift in the steering input. Like the steering moves slightly to the right or something. By a tiny amount. A tiny, tiny, tiny amount. So, oh, there we go. There's the 24.2. So she actually got up to 24.2. So I'm just not seeing it. She got up to the 24.2 in only 4 seconds. Right, so in only 4 seconds, she got up to 24.2. And that's where he believed the impact was. Because she continued on the accelerator. She didn't reduce any acceleration. She just kept going backwards. Okay, she just kept going backwards. And so she just kept going backwards. And she slowed down slightly. So Trooper Paul said that the impact's here and she just carries on going. But the data doesn't record anymore because it only records 5 seconds after the trigger. Do you get it? So we're only actually interested in the 5 seconds after the trigger. Because that's when the Commonwealth are claiming it happened. Okay. So if we know where a potential impact site was, and we know how far she's traveled by the time we get there, 62 feet, But we know she keeps going. We know she keeps going. So by the impact, she'd already travelled 62.51 feet. But where was John? Where did John get out of the car? Because the important thing that the Commonwealth don't want the jury to remember is that John's phone walked 36 steps and 83.5 feet between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16. They're only interested in the phone lock. They're not interested in this. So where did John get out? Because if you look at the map, all right, let's look at the map. Look at the map. I promise to finish in a minute. And again, I've just been playing around with this. Because I've been putting lines in. So the lines don't mean anything at this point. But based on Trooper Paul and based on Brian Higgins' testimony from last trial, we might need to look at that part of Brian Higgins' testimony again, just to remind ourselves, but we don't need to do it today. He said he parked near the mailbox, which is here. Okay. John O'Keefe is found here, like the flagpole. Whoa. The flagpole's like there. So John O'Keefe is here. I've put this at like 9 feet from the road. And then the shoe is a little bit to the south. So I think that that is a potential impact site. I may actually have to move it a little bit further because there's the bushes. The shoe actually is a little bit further up. I think I need to move them both a little bit further up, but it's okay for now. All right. So I've been trying to like play with this, so I can take these lines off actually, because they don't. That was just one thing I was playing with. All right. So we know the impact site's here. All right. But she'd already travelled. This is all according to Trooper Paul. She'd already travelled 62 feet. She'd already travelled 62 feet. So I'm going to take that off as well. So that's my previous example for myself. She'd already travelled 62 feet by the time she impacted, according to Trooper Paul. So this is slightly different numbers than what Welcher is telling us. It's the same data, just slightly different numbers. So we're going to work it backwards. So if she's travelled 62 feet by the time she impacted, then T, like trigger, must be somewhere like there. Must be there. Uh, 62. Okay. So she started here. She started here. And in 4 seconds, she gets to here. Right? Because this is T. In 4 seconds, she's gone 62 feet back to here. Trooper Paul said that the impact was at the point where she went from 24.2 miles to 23.6 miles, and there's a slight steering change. Okay. All right. And she carries on going. And she carries on going, and all we get from the rest of the data is a further about 25 further feet to make it the full 97. So that's nowhere near Brian Higgins's car. So actually, based on the data from Trooper Paul, she actually could have done this without hitting Higgins's car. She would have had to brake very soon, though, because going at 23, 24 miles an hour, and she still hasn't done any braking, she'd have to brake within the next, I would say, a couple of seconds, or else she is going to hit Higgins's car. But we know no one hit Higgins's car, so we assume that the braking would have happened after the trigger event data stopped recording. That's all very well and good for the Commonwealth. However, we have the thing that no one wants to talk about, because John walked 83 feet. John walked 83 feet, 83.5 feet before 12:32:16. So my question is, the question that I've never heard an answer to, no one knows, where did John get out of the car? Where did John get out? Where did John get out? He must have got out way down here. Because if he's hit here, at the impact site, at the place of the shoe, he didn't get out at all at 34 Fairview. They must have stopped a ways down here for John to have walked back 83.5 feet before she hits him. Make that make sense? How does that make sense? So, did they both drive away together? And then he says, stop the car, I'm going to get out. And she stops the car outside of 32. She's about to be like probably past 32. And he's then walked back and she's got mad and she's reversed back and hit him. That's what the Commonwealth might want you to say. But where's any testimony that Karen Reid drove off with John in the car? Because Ryan Nagel went by Karen's car, parked there, and there was only Karen in the car. Make that make sense. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. If Karen's parked here at 12:24, 12:25, when Ryan Nagel passes her, and John's not in the car, and yet John, based on the data that we've got, if you kind of work it back, based on the data we've got, John must have been in the car. They must have both driven away. And then John's got out of the car somewhere outside of 32 and then walked back 83 feet by the time she then decides to ram him. Yeah, it's technically possible, but how probable is that? But that's the data. That's the data that we've got. If you work it through logically and you put the data together based on John's data and the Lexus data. All right, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm sure I'm going to be talking about this again very soon. We've got more testimony starting in 15 minutes. I've been on here far longer than I anticipated, but that's my map just starting, and I'm going to start plotting stuff and just playing with it as we get more testimony, because we've got the defense case starting soon. Thankfully, we've got the defense case starting soon. Everybody's saying that Welcher is the last Commonwealth witness. So once he's done, the defense case will start, because the defense have a different set of numbers. So things could get really interesting for my little map. All right, so I'm going to be back same time tomorrow to review the testimony from today. So it's probably going to be all cross-examination. because we do only have that half day. So I don't think Welcher is going to be done and dusted by the end of today. All right, guys, thank you for joining me as always. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to make my video live over on Michelle After Dark. It's not live. I shouldn't say make it live. It's not a live. It's a recorded video, but I'm going to publish it. It's called publish. So I'm going to publish it and go and watch it if you're into the Lily and Jack Sullivan case. And I talk a little bit also about Justin McDonald. So it's all about Nova Scotia. Okay. All right. Thank you, as always, to the mods. Why is it only half a day? Because a juror has got an appointment and the court has promised that the juror can go to the appointment. So that's why it's half day today. All right. Bye for now, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.